work and what you do is so fascinating to me. So I kind of want to kind of get a little bit more about, you know, your day to day and how you manage your clients, your patients. But something else that kind of fascinated me was something that you were talking about, I guess, the last time when you referred to, I think it was the same, like, don't bring your ex to bed with your spouse.
Absolutely.
And I kind of wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about that, because I mean, just you saying that was just like, oh wow, like I need to hear more about that.
Absolutely. It is definitely a very catchy title. Being in this field of mental health, which I have been in for the last couple of about 20 years, since 2001 when I really started, and I got licensed in 2010. I've ran across so many different couples. And in that process, I have really interacted with so many couples that bring their issues in their relationship. That's nothing new, right?
Yeah.
But we don't understand that it can impede in your intimacy. Now, I do not profess myself to be a sex therapist. That is not what I do. That is not my field. I refer out for that. But in my field, you know, working with couples that dealing with communication, depression, anxiety, all those different things in a relationship, those things can impede on your level of intimacy. And so intimacy doesn't necessarily have to be physical, but actually more about chemistry and about connecting and things like that, and having that close relationship. And so when couples have so many problems that get in between that, what happens is it breaks that up, and we just don't desire to be with our spouse or our significant other, even if we're not married. You know, we tend to have an issue that will begin to, you know, create a wedge or a wall in between where two people just can no longer connect.
Okay. And I think you're right. Like, along those terms, you're right. If you think about it like that, there are so many, I guess, smaller things that happen within relationships that cause bigger problems. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. From whether if you are a young person dating all the way up to a woman that one of my previous business partners calls me seasoned, much older than her. I haven't hit 50 yet, but I'm knocking on its door. You know, we experience so many things. And so, you know, women can experience, let's just talk for women for a moment. Women can experience so many things, from health issues, from relationship issues, attachment, whether it's with their parents, a sibling, a heartbreak, even within a friendship, you know, or their first relation, their first heartbreak, right? To all the way to maybe even pursuing your goals and your dreams, going to college, buying that first house, getting that amazing first job, and you're climbing that corporate ladder, right? Or even starting your own business. Life can happen. And then if you're talking to someone who is much older, it could be a health issue. It could be menopause, premenopause that women will go through, right? It could be a number of different things. And for men, you know, it's the same thing. You know, it could be relationships, their connections with family or lack thereof. It could be pressures just, you know, having to live up to some sort of standard based off of their friendships and how society see from a boy to a man. It could also mean, you know, going to college and getting that degree and earning income. You know, I have told many people in relationships is that, you know, if a man is not at some level stable with his finances and his career, that is going to be his wife for a while before you're considered, because there is a standard, right, that is set for him. Without us, we don't know that. Women, we're not raised that way. But if he's been raised with the standard, he's got to get there first before he even really considers someone serious. So a lot of folks can be mean time. And then as men get older, there's also issues as far as health is concerned and things like that, and problems in the bedroom as well. So there's so many different things that could, you know, have an issue in your relationship, and that could cause a wedge when it comes to being able to connect.
So do you think, like, I guess in your opinion, do you think that the traditional couples counseling or couple counseling in general can help everyone? Like, do you think that that's right? That's right for everybody?
You know, the way the new world is working right now, if you would have asked me that maybe 20 years ago, I would say yes.
Okay.
But currently, right now, I say within the last 10 years, maybe 15, that is not the only way couples can actually get the help they need. And I know that's surprising. And some folks that will be watching is like, oh my God, she's going to ruin my business. I'm a therapist. Everybody's supposed to come and see me. I'm
Yeah.
a big proponent of therapy. I believe couples definitely should go to couples counseling, premarital counseling, and even marital counseling, because you always need that tune-up. But it's not going to always look like someone in the office like you see right here. It could
Yeah.
be, right now we're online, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could actually also be, maybe it could be a couples retreat.
Yeah.
Where you're around other couples at various levels in their relationship, and you can get some mentoring and some coaching. It could also mean for those of us that are, very active in our church, very grounded and rooted in our religion, it could be finding a mentor or a coach, couple, not individual, but a couple, got to be careful with that. That will, pour into your relationship, but also to call you on your stuff when you're not acting appropriately. So there's so many different ways a couple, a relationship to get their needs met. But all what I'm saying at the end of all of this, the foundation is this: get someone who's experienced, who's trained to help you, period. Whether you do a couples retreat, or whether if you do, counseling in an office or counseling in a church, mentor, coach, what have you, you want to have somebody there that is for the marriage.
Yeah.
Not so much the individual. I know that's going to be controversial for somebody, but if you want to be an individual, don't get married.
Yeah.
Your relationship is about one. You can still be an individual, but when you're talking about the relationship, you can't have a relationship with one.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to identify.
Yeah. So even in your practice, like some of the things that you've seen as far as like couples coming in for particular issues, like what are some of the particular issues that you've been seeing that are most common for couples?
Oh, you name it. It's usually communication. Communication money is the real bottom line for all of the couples, at least I've seen. Okay. Yeah. And what I have found in the level of communication, of course, is argument. So, I work with them on, let's learn how to fight fair, and let's learn how to have an argument or a disagreement in a way that does not harm.
Yeah.
And I really want that to be driving home, because a lot of times we get very angry and we say things out of hurt. Once it leaves your lips, you cannot take that back.
Yeah.
And even an apology, maybe even sincere. Joshua, that is not enough. It is not enough.
Yeah.
It is not enough. I promise you it's not enough. Because what folks will do is that they will begin to say, okay, I accept your apology, but it's hurt them to their core somehow.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to address that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say that some people, whenever I guess people have arguments, sometimes they I guess I use that term, fighting fair. Like some people they really are out to hurt the other person instead of healing the relationship. So,
absolutely.
So
it can.
Yeah.
It can. You can actually have a mate that's actually out to hurt you.
Yes.
And so now we're getting into a realm of domestic violence. Okay. And that's a whole nother different kind of conversation for a whole different type of day. But we need to be able to recognize that sometimes love will hurt.
Yeah.
It will hurt. And we have to differentiate between, was that intentional or were you coming from a hurt space? Yeah. And how often does that happen? Okay. Yeah. Because most people don't see that domestic violence, intimate partner violence, is more than just an actual physical contact. It's not just bruises. It's not just, usually an end result of homicide. It can be verbal, emotional, and psychological. People constantly are experiencing some sort of DV or intimate partner violence at some point, but we don't see the scars. because you don't see emotional scars.
Yeah.
Right. And so we need to be able to address that.
Yeah. So before a couple comes to you, what must they know, or what place must they be in before they even start seeking your services?
You know, we therapists, we always say that couples come at the very last minute.
Yes.
They think that they have been dealing with this for 7, 10, 9, 20, 40 years. Then they come and sit in your office and say, fix this.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with this? You should have came within year 1, the first 6 months. I get it, and I applaud for at least the attempt to deal, but a lot of them, they don't. What they do is they hide it.
Yeah.
And so couples come too late. Now, and I don't want to say for because you're having a problem, run to a therapist. You got to look at it. How is it negatively impacting the relationship? Are you all able to still problem solve? You can still solve your conflict. You can still problem solve. You can still stay connected, and you don't ruin the foundation of your vows. You're good. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're human. You're going to argue. You're going to do something that's going to possibly upset or harm the other person. It is inevitable. You're human. Leave that alone. But when it's something that is really negatively impacting the relationship, where it's shifting the relationship, and we can't seem to get over it, and it may lead into something violent, that's when we need to start really looking at that. But it shouldn't take 9 years, 7 years, 2 years. You should be watching for this at all times. Yeah. Yeah. So I think couples come too late.
Yeah, so a lot of that is just like daily maintenance of your marriage, right?
Right.
So it's like, making sure that, you're taking that opportunity for a self-check in your marriage, like talking to your partner, making sure that they're okay. And if there is a problem, being proactive about it, right?
Absolutely. You got to be proactive. Being married is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Staying married it's something that you have to work on. People think the marriage starts at the wedding. Marriage starts at the day that you meet the person.
Yeah.
You got to start working on that. And broken people find each other. I am constantly working with young women.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put these young women on blast. Sorry, ladies. You cannot be a side chick trying to be somebody's wife.
Yeah.
You cannot come to a therapist and try to work with a therapist to help you figure out tools and techniques to get this man to divorce his wife, and then now you become Mrs. Such and Such. Yeah. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know where that's happening. But there's also much deep-seated issues with that. But a lot of women, they get into these relationships and they're not doing the work of dating. And we need to understand how to date. I've never been taught how to date. Were you ever taught how to date?
No.
Nobody.
Yeah.
The world will end up teaching you as you go through heartbreak. But we're never also learned how to recover. So I think when you understand the art of dating and understand this, look at the word itself, DATING, right? Yeah. Take away the ING, you add an A to that. What is that? Data. When you're dating, you're gathering information. You're making an assessment. You're deciding if this is going to fit into your life. Does this even make sense? Gather the data and then look at it and say, now, does this fit to what it is I want in the future? If it doesn't fit, then don't commit to the data, because it's not what you want. Yeah. And I think we need to get more comfortable at being able to, we have to be able to learn that, gather that information, right? And if we don't, if the data doesn't fit, it's not going to make any sense. And so I think a lot of times when we're dating, we're so lonely. We're lonely, right? Yeah. We will let the red flags go. I get these relationship talks about, oh, he said he's leaving his wife. You can't wait till they leave them?
Yeah.
Is there a rush?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a lottery that's happening? I don't know what's happening. What we're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And then we're giving wifely duties at girlfriend prices.
Yeah.
And he's not committed to us.
Yeah.
And I'm not men bashing. What I'm saying is that's common. And at some point, a woman, willingly or unwillingly, is going to experience that. Now, men, do they experience it? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different.
Yeah,
a little different. It's very different, right? It may not always be, oh, I'm waiting for her to leave her husband, but it's more of, I'm just here for the meantime.
Yeah.
You know, or I don't want you to leave him because I don't want to be responsible for you. I just want to enjoy you.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Especially when you got a woman who's unhappy in her marriage and she thinks that, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and be with this guy because my marriage was going bad anyway. He's everything that I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
And as soon as your marriage is over, he's looking at you like, I didn't tell you to divorce him. I was just enjoying us.
Yeah.
You know, I gave you what you needed and it was fine. It was great, but I don't want your baggage. I don't want your responsibility. That's his responsibility. That's not mine. You know, and so we need to get back into the dating of asking questions and not be afraid.
Yeah.
There's 7.8 billion people on this planet. I promise you, you're going to date somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's going to take you out to eat. I promise you.
Yeah, you're right.
Give it a minute. Give it a minute.
So what I found also was like the concept of marriage. So when people say that they want to get married, I think people sometimes get married with the idea of being married and not really the practicality of marriage. Because marriage, just because you are married, marriage takes work, love takes work, and love takes cultivation. So that means just because you marry someone, you still have to put in work. Like you still just because you move past that stage and that step. I think that sometimes that idea of marriage, just for me, that's kind of what I've been seeing. It just I think that got lost in translation somehow.
I agree with you 100%. You hit the nail on the head. We've lost the meaning of what that is.
Yeah.
And people are getting married for 5 months, 5 years, 5 weeks. You know, when I met my husband, my initial thought was 50 years. I didn't say with him, but that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I needed to assess whether he saw this past the 5-minute conversation, the 5 week, the 5 months. Where do you see me? And then give me an opportunity to make that decision if I want that. And so we need to go back and understand, what is marriage? We need to talk about what that really means, other than a wedding ring, a dress, a bunch of food that people are not going to eat that I got to pay for. It's nothing but a VIP club ticket. It's a 45-minute ceremony session and possibly the 4 to 6 hour reception. Pretty much that's about it.
Yeah.
That's it. Once the day is over, it's over. Everyone goes home.
Yeah.
They're done with you. You have to take it from there. And I don't think that people really get the understanding that now that we've done dating and now that we're in a relationship and we're in this marriage, there's another level of assessing that still goes on. Now you got to grow in a different mindset. And so a lot of times in my counseling sessions, when I work with couples, I ask them, what do they mean by marriage? What did you think you were getting yourself into? Why did you want to marry him? I love it when they say to me, because I love him. And my response is usually, so?
Yeah.
I love a lot of people, but I ain't married to like 15, 16 different people.
Yeah.
Why did you need to do this?
Yeah.
What was the purpose of joining together? And that needs to have a conversation. So understanding what marriage is that two people are coming together as one to share a common interest and bond to create one life, to produce and to cultivate something bigger and greater than themselves and be a representative of what God has intended. There is nothing other than that. When you stand at the altar, you don't make those vows to your spouse. If you and I were getting married and I said my vows to you, technically I'm not saying my vows to you. I'm saying it to the higher power that has given you me. You are my gift.
Yeah.
So if you're my gift, Joshua, then I need to take care of my gift. If I don't take care of my gift, then I was never responsible or deserving of you.
Yeah.
So when God gives you a gift, you need to take care of that. I need to take care of Joshua. I need to make sure that he is positioned where he needs to be. You need to make sure that I am positioned where I need to be. And with my t-shirt, make sure that crown is on the top of my head, you know?
Yeah.
Strategically done, absolutely, right? Yeah. And so if we don't get into the business of ensuring that each other are well, then a marriage is going to fall. And then let me say this. Well, I don't understand why women are so afraid of the word submission. I don't know.
I think it's a definition. I think it's a definition thing, because when most people think of submission, they think of, like, you know, all other kinds of stuff that don't have anything related to what marriage actually is. Because when I that came up most recently in one of my sessions too, when the couple was talking about, or the husband was talking about the wife being submissive to him and doing these things like to be submissive to him. And I was actually telling these two people that, yeah, the wife is supposed to be submissive to the husband, but the husband is supposed to be submissive to the wife too, because
that's the part that people miss.
Because it's not a dictatorship; it's a democracy.
Exactly.
Like, that's not how that works.
Exactly, and it's a very powerful position to be in. You know, people are saying you're a doctor, you're this, you got all these degrees, and your husband, you know, he's a blue collar worker, he works in the warehouse. You know, how did you guys come together? I said, I didn't marry him based off of the fact of my degrees. This is just my opinion. I'm gonna mess somebody up. I know it. That's okay. Call me a Gemini. I've dated celebrities. I've dated the academics.
Yeah.
They get on my nerve.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I need somebody down to earth. I need somebody completely opposite of me that can help me come off my pedestal when I need to come off. Mm-hmm. That I can have a real intimate relationship with, that I don't have to feel like I'm in competition with, that I can grow together with, that I can have something different and I can learn so many other things. I learn more from my husband than I've ever learned about life in my entire existence, other than my mother and my father.
Yeah.
Because he has a different perspective and I love him for it. Has nothing to do with his job.
Yeah.
At all. He has provided everything that I've needed. And in my submission, what I do is I honor him where he stands. I ensure whatever it is that he needs. Wherever he's lacking, Proverbs 30:31 woman. Every woman needs to read that if you're going to be a wife. Wherever he's lacking, I need to show up and have that. And vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, I need to ensure that when he leaves that house, he's equipped and he's focused on whatever it needs, because the world is going to come at him. He don't need me to come at him. Mm-hmm. And so in making sure that if he wants me to cook him dinner, I'll cook, even though my husband don't let me cook, even though I can cook. That's just his thing. He likes it. This is why I'm pretty much chunky. But that's fine. You know, we have that understanding. Is our marriage like everyone else's marriage? Is my level of submission just the same as another woman? No, everyone level is different. But I think that men and women need to have that type of conversation. What do you expect for a woman? Not just necessarily me, but for a woman to be a part of your life. And how do you want to be cared for? You should never feel unhappy about a woman, about you caring for your mate. No. That should never be something you dread. Yeah. Before you get married. Just date. Mm-hmm. if you're not going to want to ensure that your mate is well, taken care of, and you're feeding into him love and all this other stuff and feeding into her, then why did you get married? It doesn't make any sense. You could have married yourself and got the wedding dress and threw the party, you know. And so submission is a very powerful position, because when your man sees that you honor him and he's feeling good, and he's a good one, because not all men are going to do that. He's going to give you back 300%. The blessing is going to come through him that you'll be like, oh my goodness, well, honey, I just did. And it may be gifts. It may be more loving. I don't know, another house. It could be just more time, more conversation, whatever that may be. He's going to give this back to you. And vice versa. You're going to give it back to him because he has given unto you. You should never leave your house where you are empty and somebody else can fill your cup. Your woman should be able to do that. Your man should be able to do that. So submission is not a bad thing. It's not bow down, yes ma'am, no ma'am. It's not about that. It's not about cracking the whip. Now, if he or she wants that, then that's a different type of conversation. Y'all might want to have. And if you're not with that, we need to go ahead and end this right now. But if it's pleasing to the both of you, how this is going to look. The husband is submissive to the wife. My body belongs to you. Your body belongs to me. Everything behind that grass, behind that walkway is all us. There's nobody else. And so we need to understand that that's a very powerful position. And there's nothing wrong with it if you're with the right person.
And you're right. I think to a certain extent with that notion that you just said, some people are people pleasers.
And that can be dangerous. Codependent people pleasers are very, very dangerous because they can harm themselves. They can actually harm the other person as well.
So I think that from that standpoint, especially when I talk about people pleasers, I think that if you know that you're a people pleaser and you know that you're like that, you have to be aware that you're like that and do a self-check, like do a self-evaluation, because sometimes the person that you're with may not always reciprocate that, and that can also hurt you too. So, when I guess go ahead.
That gets into the love languages.
Yes. And I was, and you mentioned love. This is funny. So you mentioned love languages. So I was just talking to someone about that the other day, and it's so funny because people talk about love languages. To me, when I hear that, I hear someone talk about love language. What's your love language and things like that. But love languages is kind of hard to determine when there's no communication. So it's like, if you can't talk to each other, how is love languages and knowing another person's love language is going to help you?
Exactly. I believe now the test, first, when it first came out, it was just for couples. Now they do it for children and singles.
Okay.
So that's a really great thing now, for your listeners, take that app quiz. And if you are single, there's a single tab that you can answer those questions. And that's good to know a person's love language, because that's where I believe couples miss the mark, is that they don't know each other's love language. Just like our sexual clock. Again, I'm not a sex therapist, but I do talk about sex with my couples because I gotta know what's going on, because that speaks volumes. But just like the same thing, if your sex cycle is in the morning and then your spouse is in the afternoon, y'all both at work. How that gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Or you're in the morning and she's at night. It's gonna throw you off. And so how do you meet in the middle, or what's the compromise? So when people have love languages, if your quality of time, you may not be quality of time every day, all day. It may be in moments or spurts. And then once you're full, you're good. I don't need you around. I'll be back. I'm like, you was just all over me. My cup is full. Thank you very much. we're good. If you're
Okay.
acts of service, you know, you cleaned up the kitchen, you probably got my tires rotated, you cleaned the car, you may have, you know, rearranged my suits or something like that. I don't know, you may have helped me find something or gave me some resources. You did something out of love organically for me and you helped me. That can speak volumes to a person. It shows that you care. So as long as you know a person's love language, you can communicate that when appropriately, because it's not all the time. It's just when they're ready to receive. So my husband's love language, definitely touch. He touches a lot.
Yeah.
And he says he's not, but I know he is because of the way he responds.
Yeah.
Is words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell when he wants it because he will physically do something for me to see something or to recognize. And it is like, you know, Wendy, say something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
And once I pick it up, I just go, I love you, you're amazing, you're this, you're that, and blah, blah, blah. I'll vomit all over him. And then he'll be good. And I probably won't even see him for the rest of the day or the week. I'm like, well, I just did all that, you know, but that's all he needed.
Yeah.
You know, I may not be ready for a hug. I got things I got to do. I'm in my moment. But he just want to hug me. And then I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, okay, you can hug me. But can you hug me in a way where I can still kind of do my thing and you can still get your feel on? Can we do both? You know, compromise on that. You know, stand behind me. Do whatever you need to do while I finish writing this paper real quick. You know, whatever you need to do, we got to compromise, but it got to be fun too. So love language is very, very important when it comes to relationships. Once you know that, Joshua, I believe, this is my belief, you know, people can take it. I believe if you know a person's love language off the bat and they know it, your relationship will go a lot smoother. The dating will be a lot smoother. Because you understand how they hear you, how they see you, how they speak to you.
Yeah.
It'll be so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah. So when individuals and then couples, because you do work with individuals too, right?
Yes.
So when individuals and couples come to you, like what's your usual time frame on like sessions and your program? So what's that usual time frame look like?
For couples, it's about 90 minutes. For individuals, it can range between 45 to 60 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So is it a program? Like it's like 3 months, or is it like just?
It all depends. So as clinicians, we work from evidence-based practices. So not from a coaching standpoint, but from a clinical standpoint, we have various different coaching, clinical evidence-based practices, and each evidence-based practices has a time stamp. So for individuals, so most people are into CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. That's kind of like the thing that people are hearing about the most. And cognitive behavioral therapy is usually about 13 weeks. The average is about 13 weeks from beginning to end. Okay. There's a lot of work into that, right? And there's a lot of progression. So it's 13 weeks. Anything more than that, we have to look to see if we need to continue a little bit more or we need to look at something else a little bit different. And it can be a combination of different various interventions. We may start off with CBT and then we may end up doing something like EMDR, which is, you know, rapid eye movement or something like that. So I think that's something where folks have to really figure out what is the issue that I'm dealing with, and then what is the best intervention. The intervention is going to determine the time frame of that issue and also the level of acuity of that issue. So if you're at crisis, like I have one couple that's in crisis.
Yeah.
My 13 weeks with a couple, I think I'm going to probably need to be with them for about a good 9 months, if not a year. Because the level of intensity and tension, it's pretty bad. And then on top of that, I have to have each of them go to individual therapy. So I don't want to leave them.
Yeah.
And I want to help them work on putting it together. So I've heard people been in couples counseling for like from a year to 10 years.
Yeah. No, I've heard those stories too. I was just asking the question. I've heard that story too.
That ain't me. I don't want to talk to you that long.
Yeah, that's why I am there. I'm like,
I don't want to talk to you that long.
Yeah. So I noticed something when I was kind of reading about you a little bit. I think you froze up a little bit too. I noticed something that you had something called a SMART workbook.
Yeah, that's something completely, totally different than relationships. I created a SMART workbook, SMART goal, time management. The SMART goals idea is not my concept. It's by Dr. Gordon. Dr. Gordon has used that for businesses. And
Yes.
so even though SMART goals, we actually use it in mental health practice as well. When we are creating their treatment plans, we actually use the SMART goal acronym. And so I created a workbook because I actually work with small businesses or people that need a strategy for their business or their startup to really understand what is it that they're focusing on, what is it that they're going for. And it could be just for their business, or maybe it could be for a project. And so because I'm very detailed and I'm a visual learner, I'm a tactile learner, I love doing things like a professor, I teach. I wanted to create something where you can always go back to a workbook for anything, your money mindset, your prosperity mindset, how to deal with negativity, what are some positive affirmations when it comes to understanding money and prosperity. What are my specific steps in understanding SMART goals? But a lot of people don't even know how to actually devise a goal.
Yeah.
There are people they don't know exactly how to put a goal together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that once you understand of a goal and not just doing a vision board, I think vision boards are great. We need that too. But you have to understand what are the different aspects of putting a goal together. Well, it's the same thing. I try to sometimes use some of that in the relationships too. I said, what is our overarching goal here? How do we want to get there? What steps do we need to take, and what resources do we already have, and what's our time frame? So I use mainly that, for my working with corporations and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What motivates you to be the best version of yourself daily? Like, what motivates you? Like, what's your motivation?
My motivation, is my why, is my son and my husband. And I
Okay.
know that sounds pretty common, but it is. I want to be like my mother and father that left a legacy. We weren't left millions of dollars or things like that, but we were left with a sense of ownership. We were left a sense of independence. My mother and father were entrepreneurs from day one. I've always known them as entrepreneurs. I don't think my mother has never worked for anyone since 1960. And God rest her soul now, but she had her own business. So her taco stand, Betty was from Los Angeles, California, and knows House of Dimes over by the University of Southern California. Those tacos, those burgers, those chili literally put kids through high school, college, bought homes, cars, first job on the resume. That's where the women and the men learned how to cook, how to season, how to cater and care for other people and serve. We learned how to serve others. And that's where I was raised. I was raised in the atmosphere of serving. And I think that's probably the reason why I'm in this business of serving others. And so that's my why, is to give the same and better to my son. I want him to leave. I want to leave something that will feed his children's children's children. And make sure that he's well. He's not going to be a therapist like me. That's fine. But I at least want to leave something for him that will still feed him.
Yeah.
So he don't have to be a therapist to run this business.
Yes.
Be a business owner. He won't be self-employed. And so I want him to be able to have that. And then, my motto, I live by two things. And I always teach this to my clients, and I teach this to my small businesses that I work with. Be intentional, be non-negotiable. You gotta be intentional about everything that you do. If you are not out there intentionally making things happen, intentionally checking off that list daily, hourly, if you're not doing it, why are you doing it? And if you are not non-negotiable about your future, about who you are, and you are sure this thing is going to work, then everything that you have driven for your intention, it will have no foundation, no meaning. So I'm very intentional and I'm very non-negotiable about who I am and about what it is that I do and where it is that I'm going. So that's my why, and that's what I live by. That's what keeps me going, because to be a one-woman show operating an LLC and just about to launch my nonprofit. I just got an Apple app loaded up, so I'm working with Apple now. Never
Oh,
thought
wow.
a girl from the hood of Watts, California, with an Apple, with Apple and all
Yeah.
kinds of other things that are happening. Be a SONY Pictures therapist,
Mhm.
in not only in Culver City but India and and Canada.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
who would have known, right? And
Yeah.
so I hope to leave that legacy.
Yeah. So, Dr. Wendy, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Did
Like
you hear me?
yeah, yeah. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
said that. I said that was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to thank you for being a part of this conversation. I want to thank you for like taking the time out to talk to me today. Um,
Absolutely.
and I want to tell you, I definitely enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. I enjoyed you. I wish you much peace and blessings. Absolutely. This is a great format. And I can't wait until I see you globally.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm pushing forward every day.
You're
So,
already there. You're already there.
so thank you again, Dr. Wendy.
Thank you so much, Joshua.